This video is sponsored by Konami. Do you remember Yu-Gi-Oh? Of course you do. Whether it was through the anime, manga, trading card game, or the video games, I feel like it was unavoidable growing up. I remember when Yugi beat Kaiba with Exodia, it was one of the most epic things I had ever seen at the time. Well, if you're ready to relive all that nostalgia or dive in for the very first time, then you're gonna love the Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days collection. It includes 14 Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games, 5 of which are being localized outside of Japan for the very first time. Now, most are traditional card battling games, but quite a few are very different. Everything from board game style games, traditional tabletop style games, and even games that are basically RPGs. Now, my friends over at Konami were kind enough to send me a Steam key, but don't you worry, the game is also available on Nintendo Switch. So let me take you on a tour of this massive collection and show you some of my favorite games I played from it. Now, when you first boot up the game, you can choose to play online or just get into the games. For now, the only game you can play online is Duel Monsters 4 Battle of Great Duelists, but other games that originally had local play via link cables, remember those things, will have online capabilities patched in post-release. And then we can get into the games themselves, and I gotta say, this is really impressive. You have 14 games that you can cycle through different regions and different box arts. I love that. I love looking at different box arts and the different regions and seeing how they vary and why they're different. So if you love that, you're gonna spend a lot of time just checking those out as well. But maybe my favorite thing is that you can go through the manuals for all the games. I loved looking through manuals growing up, and it was really cool to have them for even the games we didn't have come out in America originally. It's cool to see how you can play the game, all the various art and stuff like that. It was just a blast to spend time looking through. Again, if you're like me and you enjoyed looking at manuals growing up, you're gonna spend a ton of time scrolling through these. Now, there are a bunch of unique features for this collection that were not a part of the original game releases. So here you can have different screen filters like CRT, LCD, whatever. But for me, I kind of like to keep it basic so the picture can look the best it possibly can. But if you like those options, they are available. You can also adjust the screen size from normal, full to widescreen. Again, I like to have it full just so I can have it take up the full screen, but not stretch, because widescreen kind of stretches out the art, and I want it to look as good as possible. Now, like any good remaster, it has save states. You can save whenever you want and load whenever you want, and it loads up blazing fast. It's like instant. And it also has rewind and fast forward function. So if you mess up a turn and you want to go back and do it over, or if you just want to blast through some battles so you can get that money and level up and get the cards you really want, you can do that as well. And of course, all the games have been given HD visuals thanks to Digital Eclipse. They always do an amazing job, and they knocked it out of the park here. Now, I gotta admit, I spent most of my time playing on my OLED Steam Deck, and man, the games look incredible on this thing. Battling on here on my bed was the absolute best after a long day, and I'd be lying if I didn't say I spent a lot of late nights playing through these battles. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that for the physical release for Nintendo Switch, it comes with one of 2 versions of the card Harpy's Feather Duster for the trading card game. So if you like collectibles, this is one you probably want to grab. I'll leave links in the description so you can get your own copy. Now, I want to talk about the games I spent the most time playing, and the first game I booted up was World Championship Tournament 2004. This game kind of plays like a fighting game in that you have your selection screen of the different opponents, you battle them, you can kind of edit your deck, and then you keep going until you beat everybody. Now, of course, you have familiar characters like Yugi, Joey, Tristan, and much more. And for me, I felt like this was the perfect game to start with because I hadn't played the game in a long time, so it was a good refresher to get familiar with the rules again, with all my favorite cards like Dark Magician, Blue Eyes White Dragon, all that good stuff. And I played through a few opponents, but then I moved on to the game that I probably spent the most time with by far, and that's 7 Trials to Glory World Championship Tournament 2005. This game plays more like a traditional RPG. Basically, when you boot up the game, you're given a player character, not one of the main characters from the show, and you're given a set amount of starting money. So you can go to the card shop, buy cards and sets from Grandpa's shop. Oh, the memories, Grandpa. You can then edit your deck and then explore the world and start battling. I like this because it was fun to have a bit of story and a more set goal, and you can earn money, and it felt more like some progression after each win. So you can get the money, go back to the card shop, buy more cards, edit your deck, so on and so on. Now, to start, there are 4 main locations, and it's filled with players and familiar characters from the show like Yugi. What up, Yugi? Now, if you beat 7 opponents in the starting area of the card shop, you can then get invited to the card shop tournament, and that will progress you further into the story. so you can go to the arenas and the coliseums and take on more challenging tournaments. Again, I felt like this was a good constant progression through more and more difficult tournaments. And of course, as you progress through the story, different packs and different sets unlock so you can customize your deck even further. For me, this was such a fun, nostalgic trip. I loved playing trading card games and playing on my Game Boy growing up, so this really scratched a very specific itch that I loved. I just really enjoyed customizing my deck because there's nothing quite as satisfying as defeating an opponent that's been giving you tons of trouble. And like I said earlier, playing on handheld I feel like is the perfect way to experience this game and the collection on a whole. Now, the other game I spent a lot of time with was Monster Capsule. Now, this was not a game that originally released in America, and it's not what you'd expect. It's basically a strategy RPG. Hear me out. Kaiba has captured the souls of all your friends and grandpa, and you need to pass his challenges to get them all back. And you're not going to be battling with cards, you're going to be fighting with capsule monsters. So when the game begins, you're given a set amount of star chips, kind of this game's currency. You can spend one to buy a capsule monster from a capsule machine, and then you battle opponents betting 1 star chip for each battle. Now, if you earn enough star chips, you can face that floor's boss and move on to the next floor, and so on and so on. Now, as for the battles themselves, here's where it gets pretty wild. It's a grid-based, turn-based battle system. So you can place your troops wherever you want at the beginning, and then you and your opponent each take 1 turn at a time. But on each turn, you can only move 1 monster. You can't move like your entire squad. And what I found really interesting is that your different monsters have very unique attack patterns. It's not just like directly next to them, up, down, left, right. They can do diagonal a few spaces away, up a few spaces away. So positioning is really key. And the other thing that's interesting is you can hit multiple monsters depending on if they're all in the right position. So at the beginning, it was very easy because I had way more monsters than the opponent. It was very simple layouts. But then as the game went on, there were tougher battles with more monsters, and I had to be much more strategic. It was a relatively simple but satisfying combat system. I love tactical RPGs, so it was really fun to plan out the best strategy, and it was really satisfying to watch them level up and get stronger and make those harder battles even easier to beat. Again, it was really cool to play this for the first time since we never got it back in the day, and it was really neat to see Yugi and other characters represented in those OG Game Boy sprites. Overall, I had a really fun time playing through this collection. All the quality of life features made the experience seamless. The gallery options like various box arts and manuals were really cool to browse through. Digital Eclipse did an amazing job remastering the game's visuals, and it was just a nice trip down nostalgia lane. I haven't really engaged with anything Yu-Gi-Oh! In a long time, so it was really fun to relive those memories and create new ones. And if you want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days Collection for yourself, available now for Steam and Nintendo Switch, be sure to click the links in the description and get your own copy today. And thanks once again to Konami for the code and for sponsoring this video. I hope you all have a blast rising through the duelist ranks, and we'll see you in the next video.